So my talk is about why recognizing the biological basis is key to destigmatizing obesity. So we have this disconnect. We have science, and our understanding of obesity has markedly improved over the last 30 to 40 years. Then we have this void that somehow then gets translated into the public, the media, politicians, and opinions. So we have to somehow move from the science by getting rid of the void and to change the opinion of the public. Here are my disclosures. So I'm going to go back 23 years. So in 1997, the WHO published their first report on obesity, preventing and managing the global epidemic. And in this report, they recognized that obesity was a disease, complex, incompletely understood, serious, and chronic, and that it required prevention and management at the level of the individuals and the society. So 23 years ago, obesity was already recognized as a disease, not simply a lifestyle choice. Now, if we move forward over the last 23 years, a number of professional societies and now also countries recognize that obesity is a chronic, relapsing medical disease. However, the vast majority of the public and our politicians think that it's just simple. The solution is eat less and move more. And actually, if we turn to our own Health Secretary, Matt Hancock, in July was saying that it's simple. People just need to lose £5 to save the NHS 100 million. And this is in the context of COVID. So showing that the scientific evidence really is not getting put across to the people who are then informing the public. So I'm going to focus the rest of my talk on actually the regulation of body weight and really put it simplistically at a level that I think all patients and also the public would understand. So eating is absolutely essential to survival. Therefore, we have multiple systems that ensure that we have adequate energy intake. The brain needs to know how much is stored in fat and also what energy has just been taken in terms of a meal. And these signals act on the homeostatic part of the brain. Homeostatic signals drive hunger. However, in our current environment, most people don't eat because they're hungry. They eat because of social reasons. They eat because of stress, emotion. They also eat because food is incredibly rewarding and tastes very good. A person's susceptibility to these other factors is dependent upon their genetics. And again, as Aria has just alluded to, their epigenetics. We've also discovered over the last 30 years that the gastrointestinal tract plays a critical role in regulating body weight, but also blood glucose, including the microbiome in this. Now, this is important because many of the new treatments for both obesity and type 2 diabetes are actually mimicking the natural biological signals that come from the gut or changing them. So bariatric surgery is altering these signals that come from the gut. The other important thing about gut signals is that these act on both the homeostatic and the reward regions of the human brain. So this slide here shows you brain images from functional imaging, looking at which areas of the brain are altered when we simply give gut hormones. And the areas that are lit up here are mainly the rewarding areas of the brain and the areas of your brain that drive you to do something. So the fact that gut hormones act on these parts of the brain as well means that they are very tractable targets when we're trying to help people to lose weight. The entire sort of appetite regulating system is complicated, and that means that there's redundancy in the system. So when we target one part of it, often another part of it will compensate. So this is why we need not just one treatment, but multiple treatments. Now, again, we are in a very different environment to the one in which all of our systems that regulate appetite evolved. So during evolution, it's been an advantage if you could eat a large amount of food when it was available. Also, if you could conserve energy when food wasn't available. And a diet is the modern day equivalent of a starvation or a famine. And we've developed powerful systems to protect us against a famine. The problem is that our environment has changed. When we look at the genetics of people who are healthy but very slim, compared to people with severe obesity and normal weight people, there's a difference. So people who are thin have less of the genes that predispose people to put on weight. And conversely, people with obesity have an increased number of the genes that lead them to become overweight. So we know there is a strong genetic predisposition to a person developing obesity in our current environment. We also know that once a person develops obesity, their biology changes. So the signaling from the gut to the brain doesn't work properly. So the brain isn't getting all the information. Similarly, there's a delay, there's impaired signaling from fat stores, change in brain structure, and also when we use functional brain imaging, the way the brain responds is changed. And all of these changes in a person who's developed obesity means they are more likely to then eat more food because of these changes. Why does obesity matter? Again, obesity matters not because of somebody's body mass index, it matters because of the complications that come with obesity. In particular, the metabolic complications, for example, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, liver disease, and also cancer are the ones that have the greatest toll on a person's health. There's also the mechanical effects of obesity, which affects physical functioning, impacts on the joints, and is associated with sleep apnea. And then there are the psychological aspects that come with obesity, with an increased rate of depression and anxiety. But most important of all, a person with obesity has reduced life expectancy. And it's the health complications that we need to be addressing to actually improve their health and actually increase life expectancy of people living with obesity. So why? Why is it that obesity has these effects? As a person goes from being normal weight to overweight, then the fat cells increase in size and they release a number of factors called cytokines, which then cause a low-grade inflammation throughout the whole of the body. And it's these cytokines and adipokines that are driving the metabolic complications of obesity, which then lead to type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular disease. The good news is that weight loss improves many of the obesity-related diseases. However, as Ari has already said, weight loss is difficult to maintain. So please note I said weight loss is difficult to maintain. Weight loss in the first place is relatively easy. And this study here shows 14 different studies with the average weight loss on the y-axis. And as you can see, this varies from 4.5 to 30 kilos. The problem is the body reacts to this weight loss. And when we follow up these patients, we find that the vast majority regain all of their weight going forward over a 4 to 7 year period. Now, again, we understand the biology of this. From the body's perspective, a diet is a famine, and that means we need to protect against further weight loss. The brain doesn't know how much fat it has stored, it just knows that the person isn't eating. So there's a change in all of the hormones that come from the gut that then drive a person to eat. So we know when a person goes on a diet, they experience an increase in hunger, increased interest in food, and a decrease in energy expenditure. This leads to an increase in energy intake, and ultimately the person puts their weight back on. So how can we help people to maintain the weight loss? So pharmacotherapy, again, we should really be making sure that we're using evidence-based treatments that are available, and also bariatric surgery. Now, I'm going to finish my talk by briefly talking about bariatric surgery. Bariatric surgery leads to sustained, marked weight loss out to 20 years with significant improvements in health and also survival. Again, there's a lot of stigma about patients opting for bariatric surgery, again, as this is often thought to be the easy way out, which I can assure you it is not. Well, how does bariatric surgery work? As I've said already, the gut is really important for regulating body weight and also blood glucose. So altering the gut with bariatric surgery alters all of the signals that come from the gut that regulate body weight and also glucose. So that's the really simplistic view as how it works. It's completely changing the way that body weight and blood glucose are regulated. So in contrast to a diet, which activates the body in terms of making a person more hungry, after bariatric surgery, the changes in the biology favor a reduction in food intake. There's a change in the gut hormone profile, a person feels less hungry, there's a switch in food preference, and when we use brain imaging, the areas of the brain that light up really change back to that of a normal weight person. There are also changes in the gut microbiome and changes in insulin and leptin sensitivity. So bariatric surgery changes the biology and enables a person to lose weight and to keep it off. So my key message is that obesity is a complex and multifactorial disease. And there are many different types of obesity. And what we need to do is get across the message that the biology is important and we need to use new treatments that actually work upon the biology. So I'm going to start with my first slide. What we need to do, we have the science, we have the facts. What we need to do is replace the void with education and knowledge by getting across the key messages. And I really think this will help to destigmatize obesity. And the patient voice and patient groups in this whole process is really key. And we have two champions from OEN UK who are going to speak later, but actually making sure that we're referring our patients to patient groups is really important. Thank you very much for your attention.